Greetings and good morning, the official greeting. Wonderful to see you. It's such a blessing for us to spend this time together and to really make a purposeful commitment to our practice, to being with our hearts and minds when there's plenty of other things we could be doing. Taking this time, it's a precious opportunity to be born in a time period where we can hear the Dhamma. You've heard the analogy over and over again, but it never ceases to amaze me when I really think about it. What it would be like to be a turtle in any of the vast 7 oceans that only comes up every 100 years for air, and then it comes up into a life raft that is in the middle of whichever ocean it's coming up in. And the rarity of the human birth is as rare as that turtle coming up in that life raft in that ocean. And we are all together here in the preciousness of our human birth. And then on top of that, the rarity of being human, and then choosing, finding, taking the opportunity to hear the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma, and to understand that this brightening of the mind, this stepping into the stream, this letting go completely is accessible to us. And so with that in mind, I will ring our morning bell. Having great appreciation and gratitude, holding ourselves kindly and gently, taking these moments to see what arises and passes away in our hearts and minds, and taking this moment to really see clearly the nature of arising and passing away. Acknowledging the Buddha and the other Buddhas that went before, Shakyamuni Buddha, for their pointing the way through eons of time, seeing for themselves and understanding the nature of dissatisfaction that occurs in human birth, and also being able to see directly the teachings of impermanence, of the Four Noble Truths, of the Eightfold Path, of the 5 aggregates, all of those lists of numbers. The Buddha put together ways of teaching that we could see for ourselves this simple yet not easy practice of being aware, of being mindful, of being present with an object that arises, to let our concentration deepen, and to let go of the hindrances of sloth and torpor, greed, aversion, doubt, agitation in the mind. So this rare opportunity that we have to be able to hold ourselves gently and with compassion, find our stable seat, being upright yet comfortable. Sometimes we might find that lying down is useful, standing is useful, walking is useful. all ways of allowing ourselves to see clearly what is arising in the heart and mind, and having awareness with it, which brings wisdom to investigate. Is this state of heart and mind that's arising, is it wholesome for us or is it unwholesome? And as we develop that concentration, we can let the unwholesome go and embrace the wholesome. Kindness, compassion, equanimity, joy in the practice, the joy that arises from seeing clearly a moment of being aware can bring great happiness. And we need to remember that, to gladden the mind. And so with that gratitude to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, each other coming together on a regular basis, whether you're sitting at home on your own in a daily practice and then you come here from time to time, or whether you're here every morning, that connection of Sangha has come down from generation to generation to generation. Hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands by now, where those who heard the Dhamma directly were able, as best they could, to remember the teachings and pass them on. And so with this as our container, we have the joy of seeing our joys, seeing our sufferings, being with them with kindness and compassion, letting ourselves be grounded in the body, feeling the pressure of the buttocks on the cushion or chair. We can begin our practice in whatever way works best for you, that you are used to in your practice. It might be attention at the breath of the nostrils, noticing coolness or warmth on the inhale or the exhale. It could be attention at the diaphragm, the pressure on the arising and the letting go of that pressure on the passing of the breath. It can be on a touch point of the seat on the cushion or where the hands are touching, or you may notice the eyelids touching or the lips, or where the hands are touching or the arms. And as we sit, we may remind ourselves of the precepts of the virtuous behavior that we live our daily lives in as Dharma practitioners, doing our best to be free from ill will, non-harming, telling the truth, non-stealing, not imbibing in substances that could cloud the mind, keeping these virtues helps us live harmoniously with each other. And so we have the dana of giving ourselves generously to the practice, and the sila of harmonious living, which gives us a good container for the practicing of concentration, for the practicing of meditation. Those three pillars of the Dharma. Dana, sila, and bhavana. We may not think about it very often, but this virtue, living virtuously, harmoniously, is considered a kind of adornment, a basis for rapture and joy. It allows others to feel safe around us. It can help us be free from fear. A state of happiness and self-protection. And as we sit in our practice, we are constantly connected with the arising and passing away of what is known. We connect with what comes into our view of mindfulness. Awareness is there. We can let go of what seems to be unskillful, embracing these moments, whatever's arising in the heart and body and mind, seeing what falls away. A kind of renunciation that happens easily. Breath by breath, developing concentration naturally. Perhaps seeing a hindrance here or there fall away as our attention stays on the breath or the sit spot or the touching point. And this concentration brings wisdom. And as wisdom arises, greed, hatred, ill will, delusion naturally fall away. Concentration, awareness, wisdom fills that space, using just the right amount of energy to have interest in what's arising. As the mind wanders or the body calls to us, we can wake up in that moment with just enough energy to say, a moment of wakefulness. And we also employ patience. Patience with our restlessness, patience with our boredom, patience with our sleepiness. And we just begin again. Patience is that kind of adornment for energy. Patience can help us let go of difficult emotions. When we notice patience, the mind continues to become concentrated, free from those external distractions. We can begin seeing whatever arises as impermanent, that we can't hang on to the pleasant for sometimes as long as we'd like to, and we can't push away the unpleasant Things are impermanent and beyond our control. They don't belong to us. And this patience helps us not to vacillate in the face of difficulties. We can begin to see clearly the truthfulness of knowledge that's developed through our reflection of seeing the emptiness of whatever phenomenon arises. We can see clearly and not deceive ourselves. And we just begin again, over and over again, being with this moment now that arises. We may notice that we see it as pleasant or unpleasant, or maybe we can't really tell. The breath may be long or short, rough or smooth, warm or cool. There might be pressure at the buttocks of noticing gravity and warmth occurring, being in the present moment with generosity, kindness to ourselves and each other as we sit together, letting go of unskillful that arises. Seeing clearly as wisdom arises with just enough energy to keep the practice going, and patience. Having truthfulness to see things clearly, and enough determination to carry on. holding ourselves in kindness. And allowing equanimity to be present, a kind of non-reactivity to what arises. And so we can remind ourselves that as we let go of unskillful and engage in the skillful, incline the heart and mind toward the skillful, just these 10 paramis that Jim mentioned on Sunday of generosity and virtue, letting go, wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, resolve, loving kindness, and equanimity. This circle of the 10 paramis is always available for our minds to incline to. Something arises in the hindrances. We can let it go and incline the heart and mind toward something more skillful. Bringing joy to the heart and upliftment. Asking ourselves from time to time, if the attention wanes away from the present moment, what is happening in the heart right now? What is happening in the mind right now? What is the attitude of the mind? Can we be with a single moment? Can we make it through a single breath? Can we notice the beginning of the inhale? How long it naturally lasts? Do we notice when it ends? Can we notice that space between the inhale and the exhale? Holding ourselves kindly and gently with enough energy to be interested, to see clearly the impermanent nature, noticing that it arises and passes away. Or whatever else is arising, can we be present with it, hold it gently and kindly, notice its impermanent nature? That as we really investigate, we can't cling to it. Or if we do cling to it, we create suffering for ourselves, discomfort. Each moment arising and passing away, things come together and then they fall apart over and over again. And we see this with direct knowledge. And there we have wisdom, inclining toward the good but not attached to it, shying away from what isn't good but not having aversion to it. Just recognizing the difference between skillful and unskillful. Using patience as our supreme virtue. Seeing clearly, being truthful and honest with ourselves of where we hang on and when we can let go. And with this generosity to ourselves, mindfulness and wisdom, awareness, we can have this resolve to preserve this truth within us that we can see regularly, cultivating generosity and training ourselves in peace, non-harming, non-ill will, recognizing those moments in the mind when there's non-harming present. Holding ourselves in kindness, allowing the heart and mind to incline toward letting this full body that's breathing. Give ourselves kindness, give ourselves compassion. May we know freedom from our suffering. May we hold ourselves gently and be kind. May we have goodwill toward ourselves and compassion when things are difficult. And as this grows in our heart space, may we include another being, a friend, a benefactor, an animal. Letting this sense of goodwill, ease of well-being, include them in our hearts. Feeling the breathing throughout the entire body, anchoring in this container of our hearts to include another person, another friend, or a benefactor, a teacher, a being that we've derived benefit from. Letting this sense of goodwill, kindness in our hearts include them, that they may be free from harm, safe and protected, and have ease in their lives. Sometimes we can repeat the phrases or what phrases work for us, or it can just be a feeling in the heart, mind, and the body of also letting this inclination go toward a neutral person or a group of neutral people, those that we don't know. If you choose a single person, sometimes someone pops into view that you were talking to recently, or comes into your heart that you heard their story recently, and you want to include them in your thoughts of loving kindness and compassion. Or it may be a group of people who are oppressed, subject to violence, or those who are ill, or those who help others. As we let our hearts incline to include others, we use this strength of our metta and karuna from our benefactor and our friend and for ourselves to include the neutral person or people. May they be free from harm, safe and protected, and have ease in their lives. May this continued development of concentration for us be received in our hearts, a spaciousness, an openness into the stream of consciousness. May we include perhaps a difficult person, knowing just as I wish to be happy, this person also wishes to be happy. Not a really, really difficult person. Something that you can touch upon lightly, possibly have kindness toward. Know at least that they too suffer and have the ability to send some kindness towards their suffering. Wishing them to be free from their suffering. Sometimes it's hard to keep this person very close to our hearts, so we can let them be a little farther away. Touch upon it as you can. And come back to the container of oneself, one's benefactor, the close person, and the neutral person. Allowing some of that energy and stability and strength to touch upon something difficult, a difficult situation or a difficult person. Wishing for freedom from harm. Wishing for safety and protection and ease. And as we continue infusing our hearts with this kindness and compassion, may we include others that we don't know. Maybe some of our neighbors that we don't really know. Letting this kindness flow in all directions, to the north and to the east, to the south and to the west. Letting this compassion for our own and other people's suffering be balanced with equanimity, so that we don't fall into extremes when holding this in our hearts, and letting joy be there. And so we let these Brahma-viharas, these divine abodes, fill our hearts and flow out through us. To those that swim and crawl and fly and walk below the ocean, beyond our imagination. May all beings everywhere be free from harm, safe and protected, and have ease in their lives. May they know happiness and the causes of happiness. Anicca vata sankhara upadavaya domino upakitawa meruchanti te samvapasamo sukho. All conditioned things are subject to impermanence. Seeing this clearly with mindfulness, seeing clearly that they arise and pass away, can bring the greatest happiness. Which is peace. And may the goodness of our practice be of benefit to all beings. I'd like to end with a poem by Burnett Noel before we have some announcements and conversation. I want to age like sea glass, smoothed by tides but not broken. I want my hard edges to soften. I want to ride the waves and go with the flow. I want to catch a wave and let it carry me to where I belong. I want to be picked up and held gently by those who delight in my well-earned patina and appreciate the changes I went through to achieve that beauty. I want to enjoy the journey and always remember that if you give the ocean something breakable, it will turn it into something beautiful. I want to age like sea glass. May we let ourselves continue turning ourselves into something beautiful. May the practice continue shining through us. And thank you so much for your practice. It brings me great joy to know that this is happening in our one precious life.